feels like the street animals are restless, if you will. We just saw the stupid No Kings protests, but as we've discussed many, many times before on the show, 99% of the riots you've seen in your life, every time the animals take to the streets, it's paid for and organized. It's not organic. It's not normal people like you with lives, families, sitting at home, getting outraged and busting out the poster board for some stupid sign. This is all the Democrat communist network in this country, which is funded, organized, and you're seeing a lot of it now. Question is why. Joining me now, Liz Wheeler, host of the wonderful Liz Wheeler Show. Okay, Liz, they dropped $2.1 billion with the B on the No Kings protest, and it just didn't pop off. Why?
No, it didn't. In fact, I unintentionally drove through a No Kings protest just on my way to do what normal people do on the weekend, which is visiting family. And I passed by a luxury white Mercedes. I'm talking like a new model, chrome. The driver has his arm hanging out the window with a poster board sign that says, "Democracy is under assault." And my husband's driving the car and he's like, "Yeah, bro, Pol Pot's really coming for you in your spiffy white luxury Mercedes." The left, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously hilarious. I was shrieking with laughter because this is who the left is, right? They recruit these gullible, wealthy, boomer liberals to come out to their protests who are not harmed by leftist policies on one hand, and then on the other hand, they recruit these radical revolutionary Marxists to stage these violent riots, the so-called anti-ICE riots, not really about anti-ICE. It's really about being pro-illegal alien out in LA and New York. And of course, you're right. None of this is real. None of it's grassroots. None of it's organic. It's all not only organized and coordinated by certain groups, but it is paid for by people who hate you and who hate America.
You have been doing a lot of digging on this. Whenever Liz Wheeler gets on something, she normally gets to the bottom of it. What have you found?
Yes, there will be a congressional investigation soon, in fact, because some of the groups behind the violent anti-ICE riots, I mean, some of the groups are the Party of Socialism and Liberation. It's an openly communist group that's splintered off from a larger communist group here in the United States. Maybe you've never heard of them. Maybe you're just hearing about them now. They're one of the groups that coordinated a lot of these anti-ICE, these violent riots. And this group is funded by a man, an almost billionaire. He's not quite a billionaire, although I think he styles himself as one, by the name of Neville Roy Singham. It's a name that a lot of us on the right are not super familiar with. We're a lot more familiar with names like George Soros, but I would argue, and I know this is a pretty big claim to make, I would argue that Roy Singham is more influential right now than George Soros because he is, believe it or not, more revolutionary than George Soros. George Soros, of course, is pro open borders, but Roy Singham is an avowed Marxist and communist who's actually hiding out in China. He lives in Shanghai, China, even though he's an American citizen. And if you live in China, you have to do so with special permission of the CCP. He shares an office with a Chinese communist propaganda firm, and not just shares an office building. I mean, literally shares an office. He's been seen at Chinese propaganda conferences writing in a red notebook with a hammer and a sickle on him. He is like as communist as you can be as an American capitalist who made almost $1 billion selling his tech company. He's the one funding the Party for Socialism and Liberation who's staging these riots. He also, this seems at first like a weird connection until you understand the Chinese influence behind it. He's also the one funding a lot of the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas violent protests in the United States. So he funds the Palestinian Youth Movement group. He funds Students for Justice in Palestine. So when you saw a lot of those Palestinian flags at the so-called anti-ICE riot in LA, a lot of the keffiyehs, the neckerchief worn by the terrorists, the Hamas terrorists, that's not a coincidence. It's the same people that Roy Singham is paying to riot on behalf of his pro-Palestinian views as he is now paying to riot on behalf of his communist views, ostensibly the anti-ICE riots. This guy's now going to be investigated by Congress for funding this unrest in the United States because it is an anti-American endeavor. There's been document requests that he's been subject to from the House Oversight Committee. That would be, of course, Comer as the chair over there. Congresswoman Luna, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene have been on this. On the Senate side, Senator Josh Hawley is also investigating the Party for Socialism and Liberation and who exactly is funding them. It's not really a secret who's funding them, but this guy, Roy Singham, that's a name that we should learn. It should become a household name because this guy is one of the most influential figures in fomenting the violent aspects of the Democratic Party, which we've seen since probably 2015 was the start of that, through 2020 until now. This guy's behind it.
Liz, do we know anything about this guy's motivation? Everyone knows by now, like you said, we've been talking about George Soros for years. We know he's one of these God complex type people. He's admitted that about himself, that believes part of his role in life is to destroy America, all that other garbage. Singham, what's his deal?
Yeah, it's interesting actually when you look into the background of this guy. He was once asked a couple years ago by the New York Times whether he works directly for the Chinese Communist Party. And he had some flowery denial where he said, I am not given direction by any government. I march to the beat of my own drum. I act based on my own values. Well, you look into this guy's background and you're like, yeah, you're acting according to your own values. Your values are communism, bro. His father was a communist. His father's Sri Lankan, by the way, a Sri Lankan immigrant. His mother was Cuban, but his father was active in the Cuban Revolution. He was pro-Castro. His son, Roy Singham's son, works for a Marxist think tank funded by Roy Singham. This guy was part of the League of Revolutionary Black Voters, which is a communist group. He was actually investigated back in the 1970s by the FBI for being a communist. I think it was in either in 2021 or 2023, Roy Singham wrote a tribute letter. We posted this on my social media. Anybody can go and find this. You can look at the episodes we did on the Liz Wheeler show from last week. All the information's in there. He wrote a letter. It was a tribute to a communist, a Leninist actually, named General Baker. And he was praising this guy because this Leninist had said, we are going to topple the communists. We're going to come after communism. He is actually motivated by his own values. He wasn't lying when he said that, because he is just a communist ideologically. But also, interestingly, in that denial, he never denies that he's received money from the Chinese Communist Party. I think it's pretty obvious that he, at least indirectly, has received financial benefits from pushing the Chinese Communist Party's narrative, this sort of, we want civil unrest in the United States, we're anti-capitalist. Roy Singham's also married. Interestingly, he got married in 2017 to Jody Evans. Jody Evans is the woman who co-founded Code Pink. So you know all those angry, naked feminists that march? I think we just saw them in France. That's her group. She's behind that. She says it's an anti-war group. She used to call out the Chinese Communist Party for their abuse of the Uyghurs, but coincidentally, after she married Roy Singham, this mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party, she changed her views, and now she's pro-Chinese Communist Party because... you know, that's how it works.
Of course. Yes, of course. Yeah, I don't know why all the feminists get naked. Nobody wants to see that. Okay, Liz, let's change gears here before I throw up. Let's talk about the kids. I have two sons, meatheads, teenagers, and I am blown away by how right-wing, not they are, everyone knows my kids are going to be that way, they're friends. The trends are unbelievable in this country that young people are rejecting the filth. They're finding God. It's wonderful. What happened?
Yeah, it is interesting to see. And didn't one of your sons just write you? I think you posted this on social media and I saw it on X. Like the most wonderful letter for Father's Day. I know you make a lot of jokes about yourself. You're self-deprecating about your kids, but I think that we all know the truth is that you're a pretty wonderful father leading your kids towards the truth. So, and that letter's evidence of it. Pretty touching letter right there. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. You are right to observe that there's a difference in these Gen Zers. I guess your sons are probably Gen Alpha, right? Aren't they a little bit younger than Gen Z even? There's
I don't even know I don't know. I can't keep track of it. I'm too old.
Too old. Well, ask them. They'll know. Grok it, for goodness sakes. There's a difference. This is why young people are turning away from evil, is because they actually recognize that it is evil. And what I mean by that is, for so long, even our generation, millennials, right? We were given this camouflaged version of evil that didn't seem like evil. It just seemed like, oh, Democrats in charge of inner cities haven't done a very good job. Maybe Democrats don't actually have the best interests of Black people at heart. Maybe are they just stupid? Are they just corrupt? Are they just self-interested? Are they just out of touch? Are they elite? It wasn't as blatant of evil as we're seeing now. But young people are not stupid now. They look and they see the transgender ideology. Young men see that they're being told that they're inherently rapists because of their testosterone, that masculinity is toxic, that they are deprived of due process under the law. They're told that they're evil because they're white, and they recognize inherently, because inherent within us all is God. It's natural law. You can call it nature, you can call it divinity, whatever you want to call it. You know my opinion. I'm a practicing Catholic. I know it's God, but you can call it natural law if you want. We know that that's not true. We know evil when we see it. And when you acknowledge, when you see something that's evil, there's a wake up moment that happens where you realize, well, wait a second. If there's evil, then there's also good. So what is good? And young people across the country, Jesse, have actually begun to investigate what is the source of good? What's the definition of good? What's the author of good? And it has led them not only to Christianity at large, it's led them to Catholicism, because they're finding that answer in the doctrine of the church. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. And it's weird because we almost have the blatant evil of the left to thank for opening the eyes of our youth to the good of Christ.
Yeah, would hardly be the first time in history, biblical and otherwise, that an overabundance of evil have led people to God. Liz, as always, thank you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.